welcome back to Imperial College Healthcare. We're on a different site today to talk about PPE. So I've got with me Ricardo Petraco, one of our consultants, our attending physicians, who's really looking into how in a time where perhaps there are some shortages, we can innovate. So Ricardo, before we show what you're doing, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're maintaining some sort of distance between us. Both of us have not yet had COVID, which is good news. So what was your idea and what made you think of it?
Thank you, Rico. Thanks for inviting me to talk. I think that the current crisis has put us all in a lot of pressure, particularly frontline staff. And one thing that we realized very early is that although A&Es and ITUs are facing the crisis more than we are, they are clearly well prepared from the beginning. And we cardiologists, because we in theory were not dealing with COVID patients, we were receiving primaries and acute coronary syndromes, which turned out to be COVID patients. So we felt quite unprepared to start with, and we had to put a plan in place to make sure that all our staff within cardiology was given the same attention as A&E and ITU teams, in a sense that we are facing acute patients as well. And what we've learned so far is that we can't really discriminate COVID and non-COVID, someone coming with an ACS. We have to assume they are potentially COVID, and we are doing that, preparing ourselves with what we call high level of protection equipment. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to initially get you to wear on the head at least what we wear in the cath lab at the moment, and then show you the new technology that you're developing. Okay, so let me bring that in. So obviously there's a hood.
There's a hood, yeah. So for that first kit, I will put the hood first because that will go on top of it. I'll give my protection to my face. Obviously, in the cath lab, we're going to have some people helping us doing that. And what is very important, Nico, is not just having the kit in the lab, but also training how to remove them and put them on. Even more important than the kit itself. Now, this is the basic what we have. We have a respirator, which is your mask protection. We have a visor, which protects you against larger droplets. And we have a goggles, which protects you against aerosols. And this is a very, very important difference. So what we also learned by trying and making mistakes is that different people are going to have different anatomies. So I find that this mask here, which we call the cone mask, fit me particularly well. And I find that it doesn't really leak very much, and I passed the test with it. But it may be that you or someone else would not fit this mask and might get different shape, like a duck, for example. Now, what is really important when you're using a combination of goggles and masks is that you find your own anatomy, your own combination of the shape of them to suit you, your breathing, and particularly to avoid fogging. And I've used this before, and I've done 2 cases recently, quite long ones, and I did not fog at all. But I have colleagues, you might have experienced otherwise, that depending on how you adjust the mask and the goggles around your nose here, you might experience fogging. So the recommendation is try it yourself, try different shapes of goggles and different masks, and find something that doesn't fog. Because if you are doing a case and you start fogging, it's a nightmare. Because
I can tell you I've been there, and the red goggles don't fit me. For some reason, the green ones that you purchase fit me perfectly. But that mask there, I need to tegaderm all the way around. We've got a video about that. With the tegaderm on, I pass the test, and with the green goggles, it doesn't fog. So you're absolutely right. You have to pick your kit and test it.
And this is the visor, which will give you a final protection against major splash and droplets. And they're good because they adjust your hands, fit them. And there you go. It's really important to understand the difference between the visor and the goggles, because although the visor will protect you against droplets or larger particles, aerosols, if generated by the patient, will be in the room. And they do not respect gravity, so they will be coming under your visor and going to your eyes. That's why we believe that goggles are very, very important for high-risk patients or those, as we call, degenerating aerosol-generating procedures.
I've got to say, I can still hear you fairly clearly through that. When we've been doing cases, the communication between the team becomes a little more difficult, and especially with outside of the lab, where we've got an electronic system, you have to enunciate very clearly to get yourself understood and repeat. We always told during high pressure situations to say, don't get me the stent, or just say, Jane, get me the stent. But it's even more important in this situation where communication is hard. So thanks for demonstrating that. It didn't take too long to put on, but we weren't being meticulous in how we put that on because it was just a demonstration. So let's go to the new stuff that you're working on. So
yeah.
So are you going to keep the mask like that?
So just to make a point that one of the limitations of this system here, well, there are three. One is that it will not fit everyone. And there's a proportion of our colleagues who will fail all types of masks on the testing. The duck one and this one is called the cone one. And they are really stuck because there are many alternative systems available out there. The second problem is the fact that the mask itself will not give you protection against droplets in your eyes. So you have to have, for high-risk procedures, a mask, a respirator, together with your goggles. And although we call it a combination quite comfortable, they are still putting pressure on your eyes and your face for a long period of time. Yeah. And then the third problem, which is obvious to everyone, is the lack of masks. FFP3 masks are very difficult to get by. The NHS, in our case here, is controlling the distribution and deciding which hospitals and centers get it. And we are running out of them globally. So then we came up with a solution which is, again, not have been thought before by other units, which is an adaptation of something that is widely available to other types of filters, which I can show you now.
Okay, fantastic. So you're going to take the head off. Fantastic. So we can reuse that. So let me bring in the next bit. And so why don't you talk us through the technology that you've developed here?
So these are snorkels, so face snorkels that people will be using to swim and admire the deep of the sea. And what they are very good about is that they protect you with your eyes and work as a mask. But very importantly, they are relatively cheap and easy to clean. So these are made to be underwater. So once you use them, you can dip in a bucket of chlorhexidine or soapy water, and they'll be ready to be used again. So the job we have to do is make sure we can adapt that snorkel to a filter, which is the same grade as the one you find in a mask. And these are two types of filters I can show you. One of them is made by 3M, which is a typical filter that you would adapt to 3M masks. And the same grade here is called P3, so they are P3 filters, they're the same as FFP3 masks. And the second one, which is also FFP3 or P3 grade, is the HEPA filters that you find in ITUs or in between the patient and non-invasive ventilation systems. So there are two widely available type of filters there that are relatively easy to get. Now, what the job we have to do, and has been done before, is to connect the snorkel to the filter, and this is done via 3D printing. We have a very clever engineer working with us called David Pitcher. I must credit this to him. And he developed this piece here, which you click into the snorkel, allows you to have two outputs here to increase the surface that you have on breathing, and you can connect the HEPA filter or a 3M piece here, which I will show you how to do it. You just click in and you switch in, and then you're connected. So there you are. You have a filter system, you have a connector, and then you have your snorkel. And I will show you how we're going to put this on. I'm going to do it before I put my hood on to make it easy. Anyone that's been snorkeling before will know how to do this. And there we are. So I hope you can still hear me, not as clearly as before. But what do I have now is a system that protects my eyes, offers me ventilation and filter respiration, and feels very, very snugly. I feel really confident that this system here will pass any test on filtering, as we have shown already in pilot data that it is passing. And with that, you would put your hood on top to protect even further your surface, and particularly to protect the straps of the snorkel against droplets. And there you are. I must say, it feels snugly in your face. You don't want to be wearing this all day. You don't want to do a ward round for 4 hours in it. But for short procedures, an hour, 2 hours, or for procedures such as intubation or a round in ITU, an echo in a high-risk patient, I think this is going to provide a very good solution to us, but also to the community out there, because these snorkel gears are easy to buy in any sort of shop that sells them.
Yeah, there's no crush on snorkeling at the moment. The snorkeling holidays are finished, so so basically there'll be a lot of those around that could be purchased. Okay, so that's one type of mask. So we're going to bring in the other type of mask. So you'll have to take your hood off to
take my hood off. And one of the obviously limitations of getting a filter fitted into one type of masks is that these masks have a specific connector, and they are. The vast majority of the market has this type of connector here.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is make sure that we get as wide as possible. And there are other types of masks out there. So we also printed a device that connect the round one to your more used normal type of connectors. So we're going to have a three-way system where you connect the device, which is available again in a system that will look like this. And I'm not going to put this again because I'm feeling a bit claustrophobic by now. But here you are. Two types of snorkels, two types of filters that should really cover 80–90% of what is out there in terms of filter and masks for people to use.
Okay, fantastic. So it's leveraging the available technology. It's levering in 3D printing, which a lot of institutions now have. And so we're hoping to test this out in our labs to see whether it's going to be commercially viable as well.
Absolutely, and importantly, these pieces are pieces of software that you can put it online, and anyone in the world with a 3D printer will be freely available to get this once it's proved to be working and using their own cath lab or hospital.
Fantastic. Rick, thanks very much for that innovation. We're always good to hear these tips and tricks.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.